And you're live on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Evans Mensah, and this is Ghana Connect. So this week, the Electoral Commission finally laid out the timeline for the compilation of a new voters register. The unique thing about this year's compilation is that it's going to happen within the context of COVID-19, a global pandemic that we know has killed claimed several lives in Ghana. I mean, they'll give you the death toll as of tonight very shortly. And globally, also, huge numbers of fatalities already, more than 1 million people infected. There's a big question to ask, obviously, in the wake of what we've heard the EC lay out this week. Now, if you have not paid attention to the COVID-19 measures that the Electoral Commission is putting forward to protect you when you finally get the queue to get a voter's ID card, I want to bring it back so that you can listen. Then I'll ask you the question. This is going to be the anchor question for Ghana Connect tonight. Listen to the Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Sribo Kweku.
So what we are doing is that for every receiving center, there will be thermometer gun. Okay. So once you get there, the temperature is taken. There will be mobile health team. So if your temperature is above the maximum, then they will come and take you and maybe help you to.
So health officials will be at the registration center.
Exactly. That's it. It's a mobile team. So we just call them that we have a suspected case here. So they come and pick you and handle that. So if you are clear by the temperature, then you go to the center, you do use the Veronica bucket to wash your hands. Once you finish washing your hands, then you move to the demarcated areas. You are going to mark all the receiving centers with paint to establish the 1 meter distances. Okay. Then you go and you position yourself so that as somebody moves out, somebody moves in, right? So that when you are in and it's your turn, you go to the team, they interview you, complete the Form 1A, take your fingerprints, they remove the mask, they take the pictures, you are cleared, the ID card is given, you are going out, you are sanitized, we're using the hand sanitizer, there you go. So we are putting in place this safety protocols such a way that nobody will come to take any disease or to come and infect anybody.
So those are the protocols that the Electoral Commission is going to put in place. It sounds pretty elaborate, but we also know that as of tonight, the COVID-19 case count for Ghana is 7,616 infections with 34 deaths. We're getting some good numbers with recoveries, which is 2,421 recoveries so far. The question to ask is, will you step out to queue to get registered and get a voter's ID card, which you need if you want to vote on December 7? Will you step out in the wake and within the context of COVID-19, knowing what the risks are, but also appreciating the measures that the Electoral Commission just announced this week that they are putting in place to protect you? Will you step out? That's a question we're exploring tonight here on Ghana Connect. And already I can see many of you joining us on particularly our WhatsApp pages, but also across Twitter, Facebook, Instagram as well. I'm going to start with a poll because this is where you get a sense of what people are saying. More than 6,000 of you have in the last 1 hour gone to our pages to vote there, and so we'll hear what you've been saying on this question shortly. But joining me is our connect test tonight, drawn from various aspects various parts of the country, etc. Isaac Boache is, of course, in BNI. He's a social commentator, radio presenter, a graduate of the KNUST. Joins us on the phone. Hello, Isaac.
Hi, Evans.
Oh, great! Good evening. Great to have you. Also joining us via Zoom tonight is Jeffrey. He is a lawyer. Hello, Jeffrey. Okay, Jeffrey is joining us via Zoom. We'll get to hear him shortly. Pamela Abuaje Mante is a student leader and a final year student of the Ghana Telecom University. He's also joining us via Zoom. Hello, Pamela. Okay, and we'll also be joined by Afiba Harrison via Zoom, Edward Tutor via Zoom as well. Tidiani Togola is a CEO of Tuwindi, a civic tech NGO. Will also join us via phone. Now, the beauty of Ghana Connect is we get to tap into the expertise of other jurisdictions where they possibly gone ahead and done something that Ghana is about to do, so we can learn a few lessons. We're going to go to South Korea. South Korea held a national elections in April. It was a parliamentary elections at a time when the COVID-19 was still very much alive in that country, killing people in their thousands and infecting people as well. Now, they held the elections 15th of April, and from all accounts, it was very successful in spite of the COVID-19, and they put in place some really stringent measures to protect the electorate, and they turned out in their numbers because they trusted the system there and the system that their equivalent of the Electoral Commission put in place. So we're going to connect to Jin in South Korea tonight just to get a sense. I mean, she also went out to cast a ballot. How does she feel about it? What measures did they put in place? And I'm going to be sharing a few with you. Compare that with what our Electoral Commission had done, and then let's see where we are. And so, very interesting conversation we're going to have tonight. Stay with us. But I want to start tonight with the poll that we did, asking you whether you will step out to get registered.
Join us now on Twitter, hashtag Ghana Connect Live, Facebook, Joy 99.7 FM, or send us a WhatsApp on 0244 340 437, and we will call you back. Join the nation's biggest conversation now and connect to authority.
Okay, so let's start with the poll. Ernest, what was the question that we asked those who follow us on social media?
So we asked the question: would you step out to register for a voter ID card should the EC commence the process? So we asked this question on Facebook, on Twitter, Joy FM, Joy News pages.
So we were leveraging on all our social media platforms, and so you have the Joy 99.7 Facebook poll, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But I want to start with Twitter first.
Twitter. So this is the Joy 99.7 Twitter handle.
Exactly.
Where we put the poll. This is the Twitter one.
And this is
the question was what?
The question is: would you step out to register for a voter ID card should the EC commence the process? Now we have 810 people connecting with us on this poll.
This was posted less than an hour ago.
And then, so this is just 59 minutes ago exactly.
Okay.
Now we have 41 of that number saying yes. 41% out of a total of 823 votes.
Okay, so 41% says yes, they'll step out.
They'll step out
and get registered.
And then 59% saying no.
Okay.
We're not going to step out.
So the slight majority,
absolutely,
say they will not step out to get registered if the EC begins the process. This is the Twitter Joy 99.7 handle poll results. And so what to note there is a slight majority, which is 51, you said, 51%.
So 41 against 59.
59% say they will not step out.
Exactly.
Now let's go to the Joy 99.7. Do you have that? Do you have the Facebook? You have that? Okay, let me
go ahead.
Let me do the Joy News.
Yes.
And this is a different one. This is a Joy News Facebook page, and we run it there as well, just to get a sense of, as much as possible, whether there's a trend we are seeing here. And so this is a Joy News Facebook page poll, which we did. Same question: will you step out to register for a voter ID card should the EC commence the process? Now here we had 6,400 votes. 6,400 votes. Again, within the same period, just slightly over an hour. 39% of the 6,400 people who joined that poll said yes, they will step out and register. 39%.
That's 39.
Now 61% said no, they will not step out to register.
A huge majority.
Of course, a majority. So that is the Joy News Facebook poll, and that number, the total number of people who cast their ballots there, is significant. That's 6,400. 39% says yes, we'll step out and register. 61% said no, we won't step out and register. Now I want to do the Joy News Twitter account, which also hosted the poll. Same question. Here too, again, this is 57 minutes. This is 57 minutes ago, and it had 467 people casting your votes there. Yes, I will step out and register. 40%. Okay. No, I will not step out to register. 60%. Again. Okay, so
very close.
Yeah, I mean, but that's 10% difference.
So we have 60, 61, 59.
Yeah.
Saying no.
So no, there is 61% on the Joy News Facebook page saying no. There is 60% on the Joy News Twitter page saying no.
And there's 59%.
And then 59% on the Joy FM Twitter page saying no. Yeah. So the trend is, if you look at all across, the majority
of 60.
Yes,
60%.
the majority across all these platforms that we have, social media platforms, saying no, they will not get out to vote. And I will share with you what their views are, why they are saying no shortly. But I want to go to the phone lines. BNI, where do you stand on that question? Will you go or will you not go?
Yeah, I'll go out to register.
Why?
Because as long as we are not under lockdown, and mind you, even if we don't have a new voters register, there will still be a limited voters registration, which will happen for people who are not in the voters register. And we are still going to conduct elections in December. That means that we are still going to be under these circumstances because there is not going to be a vaccine within the next 18 months. And so we would have to vote. As long as we would have to vote, as long as all those things will happen, then I would have to register. But I personally think that the question that was asked for people to share their opinion on, I don't think the options are reflective and can give the answer that is seek. Because for most people who are responding to the poll, a yes or no answer does not give context to the measures that will be put in place during the registration. There are people who would be willing to register under very conducive atmosphere who probably choose no. At the same time, there are people who, no matter the conditions that are put in place for them to register, they will still not register. I think if the poll had been more reflective, we would probably be having different answers. But a yes or no answer does not do enough justice to the context and the conversation that we are having.
Okay, so that's BNI. I want to go on to Jeffrey, who is a lawyer, joins us on Zoom. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hi, Evans. How are you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you very much that you could connect with us. On the question of will you step out to get registered in the context of COVID-19, etc., what's your answer?
Evans, to be very honest, safety first. I do not see myself going out to join a queue to go through the procedure to get registered. To be very honest, COVID-19, we haven't won the battle yet. Okay, people are still losing their lives to it. I know the EC has come up with some safety protocols and all of that, but for me, the worry really is not the existence of such protocols, but it's enforcement. How feasible is it enforcing? All right. I'll use an example. When you go to the High Court complex, for example, you go to the registry for probate courts, and because of COVID-19, they've taken out all the pews in the registry area, okay, to prevent people from seating together. All right, but they've moved these very same pews outside the registry, and people are still crammed there. So until we have some indication that, look, they are going to enforce these COVID-19 protocols to the letter, I really don't see myself going out. Honestly, I do not see myself going out.
Okay, stay with me, Jeffrey. Let me bring in Edward. Hello, Edward. Edward, I could see you on the Zoom. See if you could activate your microphone. Can you hear me? Okay, I doubt if Edward can hear me. Okay, but two, I guess, positions that articulate the divergence there, as we've seen. BNI, so Jeffrey is talking about the safety. He's safety first, and so he will not queue to get registered because of the COVID-19 context. Will COVID-19, I mean, I don't know if you've heard, I'm asking you, Isaac, if you've heard the Electoral Commission's protocols. You say you will turn out, you'll go and register and vote. Will COVID-19, does the context of COVID-19 influence that decision at all? It doesn't matter.
It matters because, I mean, we are obviously in different times. But like we are saying, this is also not the first time the world has been faced with in crisis to this point. Even during World War II, like a global world war, Britain still voted to change its prime minister. A lot of countries voted. But the point is, given that there is no quick or no shortcut and there is no end in sight, because we cannot have a vaccine within the next 18 months, how long are we willing to wait till we realize that we would have to learn to live with COVID and work towards living with it? Because assuming we decide to put off a voters registration, I don't think that many people will be pleased about putting off elections come December. And obviously... But
Isaac, the argument is that you can, well, there's several sides to this argument. One of the arguments that counter the point you're making is that you can definitely have the December 7 elections without having a new voters register. You simply have to use the existing one and simply do a limited registration for those who just turned 18 or who have, for some reason, lost their cards.
Again, I don't think that argument is exhaustive in response to the context you are speaking about, because would the world be rid of COVID by December 2020? I don't think that is the case. Second, what is extremely different about a limited voters register and a new voters register? People are still going to be in queues, mind you, despite the numbers being different, but people are still going to be in queues. In December, there is still going to be people being in queues, and if this this voters registration wouldn't be a dress rehearsal for us to know how to prepare for an actual election in December, then I don't know what would present the opportunity.
Isaac, you raised such an important point. Hold the line. Let me put that to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, will you vote on December 7?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I would. I'll say that the enthusiasm is not as it was 4 years ago, because I recall how enthusiastic I was to go out and vote. I woke up around 4:30, went to queue at my polling station. That enthusiasm is not there, but I'll still vote.
So the question that Isaac has raised is, you will not queue to register because fundamentally your safety first, COVID-19 is there. By December, COVID-19 will still be there, but you will still go out and vote. I mean, how do you reconcile both positions?
Well, Evans, at the end of the day, for me, the prime consideration is safety, all right? If by then indications are quite clear that, look, they can pull this off in a way that is not going to threaten my health in any way, then why not? Okay, I need to chip in that caveat that I'll be willing to vote only if I'm convinced in December that look, these guys can pull this off because they've demonstrated that these protocols are going to be enforced to the letter in such a way that voters are not going to be under any form of health threat.
But will that caveat also apply to the registration for the voters' ID card?
You know, Evans, for me, the reasoning behind this voters registration, the compilation of a new register, I feel are valid. All right. Take for example the fact that they want to strike out the names of persons who are deceased, and they also want to be able to identify people who, for some reason, ought not to be eligible voters, but then for some reason have voters' ID cards. All right. You ask me the question: will these things advance a free and fair election? I'll say yes. Okay. But the issue really now is the timing. The issue really now is the feasibility of carrying out such an exercise. Okay. Take timing, for example, COVID-19, the numbers are still rising and all of that. For me, Evans, if they're able to demonstrate, and again, it goes down to demonstration. And so far, in all various government sectors and all of that, I don't think they've demonstrated enough that, look, we have the willpower to ensure that we are eliminating totally or close to 100% the possibility of people contracting the virus if they are queuing. Because, Evans, you look at, even in normal times, the queues are so long, people are so crammed, that, I mean, that space is even an issue. Now, if you want to enforce this social distancing protocol, I mean, how feasible is it? With these hordes of people, are you going to expand into the roads? Are you going to make it in batches? You come, how is it going to be? So far, there's been no indication. All right. And in the absence of that, you don't have me queuing to register. You don't have me voting. I want to vote. I want to exercise that franchise. But again, it's all dependent on my considerations of safety.
Okay.
Material time.
Okay, Jeffrey. Thankfully, Afiba is also now connecting via Zoom. Hello, Afiba.
Hello, Evans. Good evening.
Good evening. Hey, thank you very much for connecting with us. Where do you stand on the question?
All right. So first of all, thank you for connecting me onto the show, and a good evening to your listeners. So, Evans, the question in today's discussion is definitely not whether or not we deserve as a nation a credible register. So if the EC has identified challenges within the existing register, I think that it is the right thing for it to revise this and give us as a nation a more satisfactory and credible one, a relatively credible one. So that in itself is not up for questioning. Now, the biggest question, in my opinion, is whether or not within this period, given all the challenges and the issues we have at hand, obviously COVID, can we still go ahead and have that credible register that reflects the citizens who are eligible to vote come December? Are we capable within this time to achieve that sort of result that the EC wants to have in today's discussion? It's one that is unfortunately questionable. And that's the more reason why we cannot just go ahead and, more or less question the sort of interest they have. That is not the question. The question is not whether they have the right or the mandate to do so. The question is more on how it can be achieved and whether or not it's even feasible given the times we live in. So for me, there are two major challenges. One has to do with whether or not people would show up, right? So there are possibilities that due to things like paranoia, people like me would be unwilling to show up for the voters registration. Now, the second challenge has to do with the fact that during this time, the media, for instance, has been dominated by discussions on COVID. So it means we cannot necessarily have enough publicity or the expected publicity on the voters registration as Ghanaians are supposed to be informed like in that regard. So what that means is that even if you're taking away paranoia and the fear of people going out to register, you have the issue regarding publicity, which could be affected because of the times we live in. Right. Please, are you following?
I am following.
The second issue has to do with, so there are possibilities that people could show up. right? Because somewhere in other parts of the country during the National Identification Authorities registration process that took place amidst the coronavirus, we had people showing up. So precedent has indeed shown we could have people going out in numbers because the Electoral Commission, I believe, is not just interested in the process, but to have people massively coming out in their numbers to actually register and be eligible to vote come December. If that is the case, then the question then becomes, what are some of the procedures or the mechanisms that the Commission has put in place to ensure that I've read and heard things about how it's willing to give away hand sanitizers and like mechanisms like that, like suggestions and ways to sort of mitigate the virus. Now, Evans, you would agree with me that these are already existing protocols that one, people are not adhering to. And secondly, even with these existing protocols, we've seen the huge rise in numbers, the 7,000 plus, right? So it means that those protocols might be a good idea or might be some level of mechanism, but are woefully inadequate. And like it's obvious that we cannot necessarily have that being a comprehensive mitigation measure coming on the part from the outreach of the EC. So these are like concerns that for me, the contention is not even on do we deserve a credible registration exercise or sort of system, or whether or not the one we have in status quo is credible enough. I'm not even interested in that conversation, especially because it is not the bone of contention. But secondly, because of the political twist.
Hello?
Yes, sorry. So yes, that for me it's not a conversation, but we must interrogate feasibility. We must interrogate whether.
Afiba, with COVID-19 still very live for you, will you not step out to register ending of June when its process starts?
So Evans, I'm somewhere in the western region, and we are now more or less a hotspot amidst all of this, and it's quite unfortunate in remote areas like where I find myself, because we haven't really had recorded cases and people haven't seen some of the problems, the loss of lives, the lives that has been more or less left in critical conditions and stuff like that. People are a bit unconcerned, and that could also be said in other parts of the country. So for me, if I'm going to be honest, I'm quite paranoid, and I'm literally scared of going out. I've been indoors all day. I'm having electricity issues, as you could see, but I don't really want to go out. So I don't know if I'm going to answer that question honestly. I doubt that if we are supposed to have a voters registration exercise come the stipulated date that the Electoral Commission has suggested, I doubt I'll be there for the process. But even regarding that particular question is the issue of the ban on social gatherings. So yeah, I'm assuming
that depending on what the state does in terms of lifting the social gathering or not. Edward, can you hear me?
Yes.
Edward is also hello Edward, can you hear me? Hello Edward, say hi if you can. If you have muted your microphone, you have to put it back on. Okay, Edward can hear me, but I'm just going to play back just so that we all are on the same page. The protocol that the EC has laid out to protect you on the day when the process starts, so that we can all appreciate what they are putting in place. This is, again, Dr. Srebo Kweku, who is the Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission.
So what we are doing is that for every receiving center, there will be thermometer gun.
Okay.
So once you get there, so what we are doing is that for every receiving center, there will be thermometer gun.
Okay.
So once you get there, the temperature is taken. There will be mobile health team. So if your temperature is above the maximum, then they will come and take you and maybe help you to.
So health officials will be at the registration center.
Exactly. That's it. It's a mobile team. So we just call them that we have a suspected case here. So they'll come and take you and handle that. So if you are clear by the temperature, then you go to the center, you do use the water bucket to wash your hands. Once you finish washing your hands, then you move to the demarcated areas. You are going to mark all the receiving centers with paint to establish the 1 meter distances.
Okay.
Then you go and you position yourself. so that as somebody moves out, somebody moves in, right? So that when you are in and it's your turn, you go to the team, they interview you, complete the Form 1A, take a fingerprint, they remove the mask, they take the pictures, you are cleared, the ID card is given, you are going out, you are sanitized, using the hand sanitizer, there you go. So we are putting in place this safety protocols such a way that nobody will come to take any disease or to come and infect anybody.
Okay, so those are the details. Jeffrey, did you hear the details?
I did, Evans.
And isn't that so? Just to bullet, you face mask on. Everybody in the queue, face mask on, 1 meter apart, and you have boxes in which you have to stand specifically, so you don't breach the 1 meter distance. You would have to wash your hands at the barometer buckets. You will have the temperature guns available right before you get to the queue, and then once you go to the process, you at the point where they have to verify your biometrics, they take your photo, you just take off the mask, you take that, you put it back on, and then you sanitize, and then you leave the registration center. And for what we understand, all the EC officials will be dressed in complete personal protective gear as well on that day. Isn't this adequate to convince you that the place is safe?
Evans, because of my line of work, all right, I've realized that in Ghana, our problem is not really regulation. Laws exist, okay? Protocols exist, measures exist. But for me, it all boils down to implementation, right? Let me give a quick example. When was this a month of, I think, the starting of April, right? Just when the Chief Justice was about announcing the closing of the courts, okay? Hand sanitizers were distributed to all the courts. Now, I was present in Ejabing District Court, and the hand sanitizer, just one bottle of 330 ml hand sanitizer was provided for the entire court, okay? Now, I read the bottle, and it turns out that this was even 60% alcohol. It didn't even meet the standard, all right? Now, let's move to nose mask. Evans, we know that there are categories of nose masks, okay? There's a recommendation by World Health Organization that a certain type of nose mask is what is adequate enough to protect you from contracting the disease. Are they then saying, look, they're going to provide all those that particular recommended category of nose mask to everybody to ensure that they are protected? All right? Take the washing your hands with the water from the Veronica bucket, for example, okay? And the recommendation is that you should be washing your hands under running water for not less than 20 seconds, I believe. I stand to be corrected.
Mm-hmm.
Evans, I'll be very frank with you, okay? Whenever I'm entering the High Court complex, there's a Veronica bucket around. Because of the hordes of people who are waiting in queue, you cannot honestly keep your hands under that running water for not less than 20 seconds. You cannot, because someone is waiting for you. So it all boils down to how practicable and how feasible it is. And I think Afiba did mention it. She underscored exactly the point I made from the onset. You have these beautiful protocols, but how feasible is its implementation? Look how many polling stations we have in Ghana. Okay, can you frankly tell me that, look, these are enough? This is a disease whose manifestation we are still discovering new things almost every day. Okay, you want to risk it? The whole point behind the stay home campaign was so that you avoid any risk. Because look, we don't really know the full potential of this virus. So you know what? Let's just prevent it by staying home. But now you are bringing us to the public unsure of the full features of this particular virus, and you've come up with these protocols. It's in doubt whether you'd be able to fully implement them to the letter. It's even in doubt whether they are even adequate enough to prevent people from contracting the disease. Evans, I honestly do not think that it's adequate.
Okay, I mean, so that's a view there. He's had it, but he doesn't quite sure if it can be properly enforced. Edward, where do you stand on this? Hello, Edward. Isaac. Hello, Isaac.
Yes.
Isaac, so the point from the other side is that, yes, they've heard the protocols, the COVID-19 safety protocols, but they are not certain if it will be enforced in the letter. How do you convince them? Because you obviously believe it's a must, it will happen, you would go. Do you see their point, though? Do you think they have a justification for staying away?
I mean, they have a point.
Okay.
And I'll be the last person to vouch my life on a Ghanaian institution doing its best to the core. But if voting and registration is at the core a civic responsibility, and that means that we have as much responsibility to make it work as those who are organizing the registration. For example, my constituency, Adenta, regardless of when you have a registration or whether you conduct an election, there is a default social distancing because the people are well organized, they conduct themselves, most of the people living there are civil servants, and so it's different. So one thing I'm going to recommend to the Electoral Commission is that they flag constituencies differently, because there are certain constituencies that have histories of electoral violence. They also have a record of having very high population density, among other things. Those constituencies cannot be treated like my constituency Adenta. But the citizens are the ones that are supposed to wear the mask. The citizens are the ones supposed to ensure that they also socially distance themselves. So unless, of course, Jeffrey and Edward are saying that they don't trust themselves to do that when they are registering, then there is a problem somewhere. But I believe if everybody is to try as much as possible to adhere, I don't think we'll be having problems. And it is not a national problem. There are constituencies that need to take more precautions as compared to other constituencies. So I think when we're able to take that out, because mind you, during this period where we are saying there should be social distancing, if you go to business registry, there are scores of market men and women who are registering to get PIN numbers because they want to get access to the government, the soft loan being given by government. Churches are likely to reopen soon. People are advocating for final years to go to school. That means regardless, we are having to find ways of living with COVID. Unless we are all going to have a total lockdown till there is a vaccine, there is no point to stop the registration because of COVID. There are other valid arguments to be had about the registration with cost, among other things. But COVID is really the least of the arguments based on what we are doing in this country as far as living during this COVID time is concerned.
Edward, what do you say to that?
Yeah, Evan, thank you very much, and a good evening to all your discerning listeners. I must say that since the inception of the COVID, there has been issues of science, issues of economics, and issues of legalities. But all the countries that seem to be mounting a strong defense against the pandemic has to be countries that seem to find the precious balance between common sense and science. Look, Korea had their elections. When they had their elections, they brought some protocol. They insisted that all the voters should come home in gloves, and they should come with their own pens, and they should stand at 3 feet apart. After the elections, they realized that their case has escalated because of what they did. In France, they had local elections. That was in the first week of March. They had local elections. Now, they realized that after the elections, despite all the protocols that were instituted, they realized that their cases actually escalated. In fact, it doubled at the time as they were conducting the elections. Now, after the elections, some of the areas were supposed to go for a runoff. To date, as we speak, the runoff elections for those areas has been put on hold until they can satisfy themselves that the virus is actually under control. And here I'm talking about total control. When you go to Italy, they're supposed to have parliamentary elections in the same March. And they had the first round before their cases started escalating. Now, when the cases started escalating, they took a decision that the lives of people matter more than elections. So as we speak, Italy has also suspended sine-die their parliamentary elections. When you go to Germany, the same thing is going on there. So we have a case on our hands where we can have an election, where we need to have an election. But the question we need to ask ourselves is, as we speak, in lieu of the parameters of the circumstance, can Ghana have a general election without a new voters register? This is the candid question we need to ask ourselves. And in my opinion, as a concerned Ghanaian, the answer is yes. Ghana can have general elections come December 7, all other things being equal, without a new voters register. A current register that we have used to run 2 presidential elections. We have conducted, referenda with it. We have conducted district level elections with it. So in my opinion, we have an election that can suffice for a general election. If we insist that we want to have a new voters register, it is a decision that we have made, but is it commonsensical? Looking at what is going on in other jurisdictions, the other question is, we seem to be placing so much emphasis only at the registration centers, and the issues, precautions, and protocols are only at the centers. But the question is, people are going to move from their homes. People are going to be in public transport to move their centers.
Yeah, okay. Edward, just on the line, I see Isaac has something to chip in. Isaac.
No, I get what he's saying. You see, he has a point, but the point, he's still running away from the major issue. COVID is not going to disappear by December. And so the attempt to delink the two exercises is not right, because we are still going to have COVID with us come December. So if you are willing to put yourself in the way of harm by voting in December, even if the same measures are put in place, why aren't you willing to do it now if you really believe it's going to be that harmful? And mind you, let's not ignore all the other things that are going on in this country. Schools and other organizations are planning on reopening. Everybody wants to get back to their lives while putting in place safety measures. What is entirely different with having the voters registration? That is exactly what we need people like Edward to speak about, because this will still be with us by December. And moreover, because we know that when it comes to Monday, all right, we actually have a duty to decide whether we want the president to keep on leading us through this pandemic. Because, for example, some people might be very unsatisfied with how he has handled the pandemic. Some people might be unsatisfied with how their MPs have handled the issues. For example, Honorable Kujetua Blackwell is doing something wonderful for his constituents. Madam Lydia Harrison is doing the same. Some MPs are not doing those things. Those people deserve a chance to change those persons who are not doing good and decide who leads them in a post-pandemic. That can only happen when the election is conducted with a credible register. And I think people underestimate what the consequences of conducting an election with a register that is not credible.
Okay. Isaac, just a second. Let me also go back to Edward. Edward wants to chip in. Edward?
Yes. The emphasis here has to do with the feasibility, the achievability, and the efficacy of the protocols that the EC is proposing. Look, when the people move from their homes, they sit in public transport, and they come and assemble at the registration centers. And we are saying that we are going to ensure that not more than 25 people are going to be at the registration centers, to be in the queue precisely. The question is, we are not going to do the coordination from the people's homes. The EC is not going to say that, okay, maybe all of us, just be on your phone. Before you move from your home, call this center. Call the line to find out how many people are in the queue before you move from your home. No, everybody is going to move at the same time. And in fact, with what we have observed with registration centers, there are people who even wake up as early as 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Everybody wants to go there, do it quick, and leave. So, usually, you are the reporters. You can authenticate what I'm saying. By 6 a.m., when you get to the registration center, you will see the queue, you will see the numbers. And it has been proven by science that the most auspicious ambience that the virus needs is where people gather. And we have been told that the virus cannot move. If human beings move, that is when the virus moves. So we should not look at only the registration centers. Let's look at the people moving from their homes.
Okay, so Edward brings in another dimension to it. Not only the congregation at the registration centers, but the movement in vehicles to the registration centers as well. Let me go to Zoom. Let me bring in Afiba. Afiba, as we wrap up, question. So what would it take to convince you or make you feel comfortable enough to want to step out and register? What is it that if you are is provided on the registration day will give you the confidence and the assurance you need to step out and register?
So, Evans, quickly, I think that in today's discussion, the problem is not largely whether or not, like the concerns regarding a possibility of a viral spread of the virus are legitimate concerns. But like I stated early on, I am more interested in whether or not at the end of the day would have that credible register that the EC thinks need to be put in place ahead of election 2020 come December. So that's my concern. Do we get that kind of result when we go through this process with all the challenges we could all attest to? Do we still have such happening? But for me, Evans, I could appreciate the kind of measures that the Electoral Commission are going to put in place or are willing to, sort of have at the registration centers ahead of the registration process. But that's notwithstanding, it takes me out of the picture. It doesn't speak to the issue of whether or not you have massive publicity on some of these issues to attract people going out in their numbers to say, I'm going to register for the purpose of voting coming December, right? So we could have all of these measures indeed being put in place. And I want to believe that they will be implemented as they are being outlined. As much as they are being outlined, the implementation will follow suit. That's what I even want to believe.
Okay.
But the question again then becomes, do we have enough publicity on whether or not people can go out there and have some of these measures being taken care of and ensuring they can go through the process?
They can do the process.
Are people willing
to do it?
You understand?
Yeah, I mean, and I guess there's a reason why these conversations are important. Let me quickly bring in Jeffrey. Jeffrey, quickly.
Yes, Evans. I would have to say I agree with Afiba, especially on the point she made about whether we're going to have the turnout that we need for the whole exercise to be representative of its whole intention.
Right? But isn't that why you need to you must show up on the day and register yourself? Because everybody say, they can't. Then of course then you have the numbers.
No, but Evans, you need to look at the reason why they are saying they don't.
I get you. Don't mind me. I'm just asking you a devil's advocate question there. Yeah, go on.
But again, Evans, as to what I would want to see in order to compel me to come out to register, it's two simple things, all right? First and foremost, I'll say they should find a cure for corona.
That's a good one. And the second? And the second?
The second would be, look, get everyone the PPEs, get them the right mask, the right gear. I mean, that overcoat, the blue overcoat looking thing and all of that. Once you have that in place, then you can argue and say, look, we provided you all you need to be able to come out and guarantee that you'll be safe.
Okay, I'm grateful, Jeffrey. I'm grateful, Isaac. I'm grateful, Afiba, Edward, who will join us. And I want to hear from you on social media quickly before we wrap up. Ernest?
So this one from Abochi from Kete says, in fact, the Ghanaians are not happy with the conduct of the Electoral Commission. They may spread coronavirus across the country. And this one from Salifu Kaswazungu says, government efforts at tracing, testing and treating has been impressive so far. Ghana has better hold of the situation than most countries. And this one from Inkonya Lauren says, I won't go. I can't risk my life for a president or an MP who will not know me tomorrow. MPs are going to bus people from different places to register in their various constituencies. This will spread COVID-19. Evans, we are not safe. And this one from Alua says, we don't need a register in the first place. Limited registration is expected, but a new register in June, that is not realistic. And this one says, this is not clear, and this is clear. There's no doubt the president will lift the ban on social gathering. That is from, and my answer is no on whether or not you will step out. Final one from Ajiman Joseph in Tema says, good evening, Joy News. I will step out to register because already you're observing social distancing at the market and the workplace.
Okay. Thank you all for connecting tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening. as we come down to the end of June when the registration exercise itself will begin. Up next is First Take with the boys.